Going on, running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans. Welcome to Talking in Ovals. If you like those things, you're in the right place here. How's everybody doing on this Monday, January 9th of 2023? I'm very proud of myself for not saying 2022. That's the first thing we're going to say here because I've been doing that this whole entire start of the month already. But we have a great show for you today. Before we get into anything fun, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go find us Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook now. Just go search Talking in Ovals. You'll see the logo. You cannot miss us. Before we jump into anything, I just want to give a heartfelt, sincere apology to Emma Coburn. Her mother passed away at 62 years old. I saw that information on Twitter. So from Dave and I here at Talking in Ovals, we just want to send that out to Emma. I don't know. Hopefully you're a fan, Emma. If not, if someone is that can reach out to her, let her know. We send that out to her. And as I mentioned him, Dave, what's going on, brother?
Not much. I'm just so thrilled and happy that this is our 21st show. And just want to thank everyone out there for listening and following, and to our great guests. It's been so much fun. I look forward to Monday every single week because we get to do this and talk about the sport that we love.
Dude, two goobers like us have almost been doing this for half a year. This is like it's crazy how quickly it snowballs, right? I've been podcasting for a little bit and it freaking snowballs. And by the time you look at it, it's like episode 52. We've been doing this for a year. Like, it's pretty nuts. Yeah. It's nuts. So speaking of our guests, last week we had Chris Stefelski, Westfield cross country and track coach. We had some great conversations with him, especially talking about, the modern athlete technology. He has lots of really cool and strong opinions on those types of things. Go check it out. Picking more coaches' brains. Like, I super enjoy that. Before we get to our guest this week, though, we have some PRs.
We have some more PRs.
Thank God for your friends. Your friends are amazing. But we have some PRs. I want to run through them pretty quickly because we have quite a few here. So first thing first, I got to mention my alma mater, Manchester. First place at Ocean County Relay Sprint Medley. The team of Tyrone Benjamin, Joe Keurig, Will Freeman, and Nick Lafredo. They ran a 340.83 Sprint Med. That's good for number 7 in New Jersey at the time, a national qualifier, and an indoor school record at Manchester. So that's a pretty big deal. We have a proud program there. Jumping right in, Lacey Township, they competed at the Freedom Games on Saturday. They have some great PRs here. Ann Roth did a 34 feet 8 inch triple jump. That's a school record over at Lacey. Kiara Wimbush, a 3:35.49 in the 1K, 3-second PR. Katrina Conti, 45.99 with the 4-second PR in the 300. Ava Ford, 46.88, a 3-second PR. Avery Johnson, a 47.89 2-second PR. And over on the boys' side, Andrew, I'm going to butcher your last name, Tate Sure, 440.79. That's a 5-second PR in the 1,600 meters. So congratulations to all of them. And, our guest here is a runner. We're all runners. Those are huge PRs. People don't realize 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds, massive PRs, especially in the sprints. So congratulations.
I even have a few more that we had sent in really quick. From the Union County Relays at the Jersey City Armory. From Westfield, we have Leo Shorts going 6'1" in the high jump. John Barufara, 46.4.75 in the shot. Sanu Glasgow, 8'4" in the 55 hurdles. Alex Valencia, 210.2 in the 8. And then some more Westfield over at the Freedom Games at Ocean Breeze. Tej Mehta, 237.04 in the 1,000. Liam Murillo, 240.30 in the 1,000. And Ryan Daly, 240.74 in the 1,000. And one of our past guests, one of my good friends, Wilfredo Rivera and Adam Nalvin over at South Brunswick, their boys won the Greater Middlesex County Relay Championship. So congrats to everyone who we just mentioned, and keep it up.
Yeah, thank you for everyone who's sending in those PRs. I said to Dave, I thought those 1Ks were pretty freaking good. For indoor, that's pretty damn good right there. So congrats to everyone with all their PRs. Keep sending them in. We keep wanting to hear about them. And speaking of PRs, our guest today, Set Plenty, fast as all sorts of hell. He's Steve Slattery. He is a New Jersey track legend and a 2003 United States Outdoor Champion in the Steeplechase. What's up, Steve?
What up, man? I feel like getting all back into the Jersey stuff here in my boy Wilfredo. I used to race him back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man, it's good to hear some of those names. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, we're excited, to get going. And we mentioned before the show, like Ian Hahn, you listen to the show with Ian, and like he mentioned you, and it's like it's just pretty cool to have this all coming full circle. Like we're getting a monopoly on all the New Jersey people right now, and then I feel like we're gonna slowly start expanding, just like Jersey people do. Just go and start infecting every other place, and then getting made fun of profusely by everybody for being from Jersey. But it's just because they're all jealous. But I want to get going right away. I want to talk to you first. You're a pretty prolific runner. You have some ridiculous times in the steeple. 8:15 PR is your steeple right there. I mentioned with Hyatt, my generation kind of has Evan Jaeger. Like that's like but you were Evan before Evan for that generation right before, which is pretty freaking cool. One of the things we've been asking all of our guests is, when did you kind of realize running is my thing? Like, and what was that running journey like for you?
Yeah, so I always was into sports. Like I played like every sport growing up. Football, I played a little soccer when I was younger, basketball. I was into bike racing, stuff like that, karate. And I ran the mile in gym class. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I remember I was like the youngest grade in the school. And I think I ran like a minute faster than anybody had ever run before, like in any grade. And my gym teacher like went home and called my parents and was like, "Your son needs to run track." And I'm super thankful for that. I never even like thought of running track. My parents were supportive, like signed me up for the track team. I was okay. My first year, like, probably like top 5 or 6 in like the junior Olympic state meet or whatever. And a year or two later, when I got into middle school, I kind of just started winning. And I'm an extremely competitive person. And so like that kind of sealed the deal for me. I never thought of myself like 100% as a runner, but I like to win, and it was a sport I was really good at. And I just like kind of dug in, and like training hard or whatever, like didn't really matter to me. I just like to win.
I mean, that's pretty amazing. And we've heard that a few times, right? Like that, as we've talked to some people, it's like, we've had people like, we did this, we did that, but then I won for the first time. And I realized I can keep doing that if I work hard. And that's kind of where people pick it up. So
listen, Alex,
yeah,
you are young. So like you weren't fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to have to be in a race that Steve was actually running in, like I was. I mean, I graduated in 96. You were what, Steve? 98?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were Ian's year. I mean, I was group 3. He was group 3. My team was good over at Toms River South, but I mean, he was always up there. It was, as a sophomore, you're just like, this kid is going to be something really, really special. So it was just,
thanks, man.
It was fun.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you.
So go through a little bit of your, history running. You mentioned you kind of, you were told to go do it. You kind of started to do it in middle school. You kept winning. What are some of your like best memories, like going back from when like you were like young coming up? What are some of like your fondest memories or stories that you can tell us all the way through your running journey and, even getting into college and everything?
Yeah. Like, I think that, for me, I just like to compete, like, I really enjoyed it. I was on the Lakeland, part of the Lakeland junior track team. My middle school, I had cross country, and then I ran that, and I ended up winning the junior Olympic nationals in 8th grade in the 3,000 and 1,500. Wow. I was pretty pumped about that. I thought like going into high school after winning that, I was kind of like 100% committed to running like indoor, outdoor, cross country. I came in my freshman year and I just like didn't think anybody could beat me. I think I was a little naive. I think I won every race until maybe the group meet my freshman year. And that just I was just that kind of person, like put my head into it and ran as hard as I could. And if I got beat, I didn't let it deter me. And I just came back the best, better the next week. I think, I will say about a couple things about high school is like, probably the best race I've ever run in my life was my freshman year in high school. For some reason, I was pretty amped up about our indoor county meet. And I know this, like, I've run a lot of big races. This sounds kind of stupid, but we used to run at East Stroudsburg University, and it was cement track, 200 meters flat. You used to have to wear like your training shoes. And
I went there and for college, and it was a cement track inside. You had to run
around the basketball court.
Around the bleachers. So like you were like hidden for a while. Yep.
Oh. And so at our county meet, it was a regular mile. It wasn't 1,600 because it was a yards track. And I was pretty pumped. I hadn't really lost any races to anybody in the county or anything like that. And like there was some seniors that were good in the mile, and I just came like freaking game face and ran, I think 4:25 or 4:26.
That's fast
on that track.
Super fast.
And I didn't think anything of it at the time, but like looking back on it now, like, man, I haven't run on a track like that in a long time. And like, I think as a freshman, that's probably one of the better races I ever ran in my life, especially like out from the front the whole way. That's cool. I loved running in New Jersey. Like I was a little different. I ran every dual meet. I doubled, tripled every dual meet. I doubled and tripled usually to every meet until the meet of champions. And that's what I fed on. I like to race. If the races weren't competitive, I do a workout after or something like that. But I was just someone that fed off running hard and racing. I think maybe towards the end of my high school, like that maybe caught up on me. I never won an outdoor meet of champs. I think
really,
I got caught in the cycle of like running Foot Locker, running indoor nationals, and like running like not taking any time off. And I think I was pretty fried both my junior and senior year going into it. And I also I think I had won a bunch of stuff. It was hard to get excited about it anymore. Sometimes I think that mentally for me, being engaged is probably the biggest thing. And I think, I probably wasn't as excited running the meet of champs my senior year as I was running the county meet my freshman year. And I think that that's maybe contributed to losing some races. I loved running in New Jersey. Like I would have regretted it if I was like one of those kids now that, runs once a month and in a rabbited race. Like I'd run anything 400, 800. I think I did some hurdles, high jump, javelin. Like I just I was there to experience it. And I'm really, really happy with the experience I had.
So what do you tell some of the kids now? Because I feel like, they've had a rough go, obviously, with COVID and things like that, and it took away a lot of time from them. But, you sound like someone who, outside of being physically gifted, you were just mentally tough as nails. How did you what would you say to some of these athletes now? Is there a certain mindset that you clicked into whenever you stepped on the track, or is that just something that you think is just innate and special to you that allowed you to be as competitive and stuff as you were?
I don't know, man. I think that for me, it just was like, I'm just a competitive person. I tried to compete. Like I trained hard. Like I didn't run a lot of miles, but like I was like, 6 minute to 6:30 pace every day in high school, like hammering.
Yeah.
Like I'd run sub 50 at the end of my quarter workouts and throw up on the track. Like I ran probably 30 to 40 miles a week, but I ran hard. My coach kind of protected me. I ran 4:20 as a freshman, and I remember pretty clearly Tom Fleming, an old New Jersey guy, since passed, like came up to me and was like, "Hey, you could break 4 minutes in high school if you run 100 miles a week." And like, I thought he was crazy, and it's probably true. And there's kids that do it now, but I don't know if I would have had the career that I had if I did it. I don't know. I see like what some people are doing now and running higher mileage when they're younger. And I wish maybe I ran a little bit more at a younger age, just to, maybe I would have been better. But I liked going. I was just a regular kid on the track team and went to all the races they did, and just I think that experience helps you stay in the sport long term.
Yeah. Certainly. Now, when you ran, there were some really good guys. You had yourself, you had Ian, you had El Mucho over at Westfield. What was it like you said, like getting to those state meets and just knowing that like you have to bring it just as much in your state meet because you are running against guys that are almost on that national caliber level here in your own state. That had to be fun week in and week out.
Yeah, man. It was, I mean, El Mucho was tough for me, to be honest with you.
He had such range.
We're similar runners. We both like relied a lot on our speed, and I tend to try to like push the pace to beat him, which worked more in the longer stuff in cross country. He was a little bit, he was a year older than me. But he was super talented. I think that someone like that was hard for me, like to be a year younger. I think it would have been interesting if I was a year older, but yeah. I really appreciated having him to run against. We went to the University of Colorado together. Yep. We would get into it sometimes in practice. We had some pretty good battles then, but I liked running against those guys. New Jersey was competitive then. There's still, it's still a great sport great state for track and field. And, I'm glad I was like a part of it.
So we'll save. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I was going to say, like, I was talking to Ian yesterday, and he was talking about how, like, hanging out with you at the Foot Locker meet and just how much fun that it was for, like, 3 people to go from our state to Bond. Because that doesn't really happen often where you have 3 qualifiers from New Jersey run at Foot Locker. Or was it Kinney then, or was it actually Foot Locker?
It was Foot Locker then, and it was really cool. Like Colin and I were pretty close friends, and we remain in touch. Like, he was just a guy that I got along with. We would like meet up and hang out once in a while, and we would hang out, not really have anything to do with running. We were just kind of friends, and he's a good guy, and like I appreciated his friendship and running against him. And he was he had a great career as well. Unfortunately, he had to be the same year as me, and I had to beat up on him a lot. But he was a great cross country runner and track runner, and he's just an overall good guy, man.
Yeah, his indoor mile time is crazy. That's one thing that for me, I was like, his indoor mile was really good. That's Ian's, like, I think he'll tell you too, his high school thing, his indoor mile, he doesn't think it's ever going to be broken at Manchester. And I think that's probably 412 indoors, pretty ridiculous, but maybe not to you, Steve, because you're actually fast. But for me and Hyatt, that's solid, man. That's good. But so I want to save talking a little bit about your college journey a little more towards the end, because we're going to get into that more. I want to jump into your personal life, which usually is like persona non grata. We don't talk about that with people, but you have a little bit of a different personal life. You married another elite pro runner in Sarah, your wife. Tell me what it's like. Like, we see that a lot, like with power couples, like especially track and field. There's a lot of couples that are both elite. Give us a little bit of insight. What is it like being married to someone that you were able to experience successes together in running? And what was it like going to like different meets and stuff like that? How did that go?
Yeah, I think that like it's awesome because like, especially like running on a pro level is like a really unique experience. And I'm glad I got to share that with her, because like, it's just something that's just like, it would be really tough to do if your significant other didn't run. I think that like we really fed off each other. I think we're both each other's biggest supporters. I mean, she is probably the runner I look up to the most, and like we're very opposite as runners too, I think. But it's also hard, when you're competing at a super high level. I think it was easier in college than when we were pros. You got to be really selfish, like you're really single-minded, and like that's your whole life, like it's different when you lose a race in high school or college, but like when that puts food on the table, like it's just a different world. And like, you're trying to be one of the best runners in the world. And I mean, I think every pro tries to be the best runner in the world, whether how close you are, regardless, but like, there's a lot of intensity there. And we did a good job of turning it off most of the time. we talked a lot about it. We were passionate, but we had like a lot of fun. I mean, we had a lot of summers. We were really lucky. We were with one of the biggest agents in the world, Ricky Sims at Pace Sports. And, we had Usain Bolt, Mo Farah, and people like that. And, we would all Sarah and I would stay in training camp all summer in London, and like, we'd go to our individual meets, but a lot of the time, like, we were traveling the world together and going to big meets, and it was kind of cool. Like, we ran together on our easy days once in a while. And, it was a really awesome experience. I know one of your questions was like, what's it like? I think the competitiveness, she is very, very competitive as well. And I think like sometimes our house is overly competitive. We have 2 kids, and like, it's just, there's not a hill or a hike that someone can't do faster, or there's a lot of racing going on. She's in better shape than I am right now. She's been running quite a bit. So I think I need to step it up and, show her who's boss, because I think she could beat me right now in a race. So don't tell her that.
Do you ever bring up a YouTube video of like where she got second just to piss her off? Just like in a competitive level, just like bring up a YouTube video and be like, oh, hey, I remember this one, just to like mess with each other. Because I know I probably would, just to like really poke fun at each other.
We don't, because I think like we were so invested in each other's running that like we were kind of like rooting for each other so hard. But I mean, I think that, honestly, like, it's a huge part of our life, and we talk about it and stuff. We don't like, it's one of those things where, we'll talk about different races and racing different people. And I don't know, it's kind of cool to have that like person to talk to about something that was such a big part of your life, and she completely understands it,
Mm-hmm.
She gets me and I get her, and like we get the hard parts and the fun parts and stuff like that. So it's kind of fun having like that partnership.
Yeah, my wife tries. I give her credit when I'll talk something about track, or like she'll try and then I'll see like the blank stare and I'll be like, this conversation's over. So that definitely has to be pretty cool when we're talking about like PRs and pace and things like that. Like, you both have an understanding. That has to be fun. Maybe me and Dave wouldn't be doing this show if we had significant others that actually wanted to talk track and field with us. We
do get a lot of like, hey, what do you think you can run for a mile right now?
I'm sure.
Your dad in this event.
I'm sure.
And so it does get, I'm going to start running. I'm going to get into shape, because I can't right now. I can't talk crap because I think she'd beat me in a lot of stuff.
So did you meet her in college, or I think Ian was telling me that you might have met her at Foot Lockers?
Yeah, we met at Foot Locker.
High school?
I was with Han. We met her at one of the events there, and it was one of those things where we just met and like kind of stayed in touch. We were on the World Junior team together in Belfast for World Cross Country. We just saw each other at a lot of races, and then she ended up coming to Colorado, and we started dating about a month into her freshman year. And it was one of those things where we always like got along really well, and just made sense. It just worked out. So I'm really thankful for that.
It's kind of like running
track love story.
Yeah, running royalty come true to like create it. So I'm a terrible host, and we forgot to talk about your national championship. I'm not trying to overshadow your relationship, but it's not every day you get to talk to someone who was the bar none best runner in the country at their event. What was that like, winning the national championship in 2003 in the steeplechase?
It was my first year running professionally. I was second the year before, and I actually didn't win an NCAA title. My wife rubs that in my face all the time because she won it. I won a team one. I won team cross, but she won 2 individuals. I got second and third, and a couple, like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things I expected to win. Like, I went into that race knowing I was going to win. And I felt that way in some other national championships that I didn't win. I got second a couple other times and third. And, it was one of those things where I was just on fire right then. I was feeling strong, and, it's good to cross the line first, and kind of like etch your name on the list of national champions. And it's definitely one of my better accomplishments at the runner. And it was honestly, it really came at a great time when you're first out of college and you're running professional, you're trying to find your way, and it kind of sets the tone for your career. Like, I had a really good agent. I won USA as my first year, and I ran okay in Europe. And that kind of opened a lot of doors for me to kind of continue to run in a lot of the big races and stuff like that. And back in the day, it was the Golden League. Now it's the Diamond League and stuff like that. And it was just like, that first winning nationals, my first year as a pro, really kind of like set the tone for my career.
So as a fellow New Jersey runner from the same era as you, how did you get involved in the steeplechase? Like, I know there are other states where they do run. I think New York might have like a 2,000 meter steeplechase or something.
Yeah, New York does 2K.
How did you get involved and say, that's what I want to do? I want to run the steeplechase.
Well, Han was just texting me to tell you guys about the dunking, but that wasn't really part of it.
We need to, what? Excuse me. So we need to hear this now. The world needs to hear it.
I don't even remember it, but Han said that I came down and played basketball on him and was dunking on him, and he told me I should do the steeplechase. But
that's the same thing that he told me yesterday, which I thought was cool because you know how like a lot of people think that we only run distance because we're not athletes. We can't do anything else. So it's always good to like see when a actual great distance runner is a tremendous athlete too, because I think that's such a thing out there that is just so false that it's not true.
In most people's defense, it is true. I'm sorry. Most distance runners can only run. There's a good handful that are great athletes, but man, we all know this. We can be honest. Most distance runners can only run. They had a 4.0. They're whizzes. They're valedictorians, and they're good people, but they're just really good distance runners. Like there are a good handful of great athletes, but it's not most of your sprinters are great in a bunch of other sports.
I think Han and I were the not super good students. I was a good student, not a great student. I think he would probably say the same thing. He's a pretty athletic guy. I think that's how he got into the basketball. And so I think the real reason, I think I was, from the way I remember it, and I probably should ask my high school coach, is I think we couldn't have anybody that could break 60 in the 400 hurdles, and we were talking about it, and I was doing 400 repeats and like at the end running like 52, 53 or something like that, and I was like, I can run sub 60 for the 400 hurdles like right now, like, and probably ran like 56, 57 or something like that. And
Jesus,
my coach was like, you should run the steeple, and I was like, yeah, what's the steeple? And I did it my junior year. I went to a Nike camp. And they made us run a race, and I ran a steeple, and then, ran it at National Scholastics my senior year and won the nationals. And I think I set the national record, at the time. Yeah. So I like to hurdle. I like to jump over stuff. I have a short attention span. It helps.
What was it like learning form in a state where you really don't have a lot of opportunity to do it? Did your coach really kind of invest in trying to teach you some form with that?
No, I never practiced it once. I just jumped over the hurdles, and he was like, yeah, you're good. And then when I went to college, my college coach was like, we don't practice hurdles. Like if you could hurdle, you could hurdle. And he was like, damn, you could hurdle. All right, you're doing the steeplechase. And so that's how I rolled. I have to say, like, my training partner in Europe for a lot of the time was a world record holder, Steven Chirono, Shaheen.
Wow.
And I don't think either of us ever practiced a hurdle. I think that most Kenyans never jump over a hurdle in practice.
Right.
And like a lot of times my first race of the year was my first time going over a water jump. So I just kind of how I did it.
And that's incredible with how obsessive certain people are with like mastering the water jump and, good proper form going over. It's like, and here it is. One of the best steeplers in American history is quite literally saying, probably not all it's cracked up to be. Just run fast and jump over things. That's essentially what you're saying. Run fast and jump over stuff.
I trained with the world record holder. He ran 12:48. I ran 13:30. That's why he beat me in the steeple. Like, I mean, I'm running closer to my PR probably than he is. So I don't think, running more hurdles was my problem. I think it just that I sucked at running in between compared to him. So,
fast is fast.
Yeah. If you're fast, you're fast, man. And I think that's more of, I think if you're going to want to be a steeplechaser, I mean, Evan Yeager, I like that you compare me to him, but he really would, he has just blown what I've done out of the water. but he's 13 minutes, for 5K. I mean, he is a better runner than me on the flat. That's why I think he's run faster than me in the steeple. He's just flat out amazing.
Certainly matters. So I want to jump into your collegiate career a little because it started off, I think you'd say, fairly interesting. There was a book put out by the author Chris Lear called Running with the Buffaloes. And if I'm not mistaken, you were a freshman that year that he was hanging out with the team. What was it like coming in Colorado, being, a really good runner, very good national runner, coming to a very good team, and all of a sudden there's this dude just documenting everything you're doing? Like, what was that like, jumping in there with that?
It was awesome. I mean, it was an awesome experience. I didn't really know when it happened. None of us really knew what to make out of it. Lear just became kind of a friend. Like, Lear is one of my closest friends to this day. And we were all like, dude's writing a book. Like, this thing's never going to pan out. Like, whatever. Like, it was interesting, but he just became a friend of ours. Lear would come hang out with me in the dorm, and I spent quite a bit of time with him, and he did that with all the guys and really got to know us. And like, he's kind of one of the CU guys. Like, we consider him one of the team. And I thought it was a good book. I mean, I like I said, I didn't know what would happen. Like, your freshman year in college, so much stuff is going down, and it was a weird time for me. I think by the end of the season, I felt like I was like able to compete, but like, Coach Wetmore was pretty smart and redshirted me. Like, the increase in distance was a little much for me. And, just being a part of the team. And, I went to CU. CU wasn't CU when I went there. Like, it was all Colorado guys and Running with the Buffalo. Like, I was one of the first Foot Locker finalists, like really top guys they had recruited since Goucher.
Yeah.
And, I think I caught the end of Running with the Buffaloes, but that was like the old school CU. Everybody's from Colorado. Everybody ran 100 miles a week. And like, we were like the hard working, like, we would always be like, they get all the good recruits. And then like, I came and I was like the first good recruit. And then we got like George Torres and Ed Torres and Dathan Ritzenheim. And now it's like the dynasty that CU is now. But, we're all pretty loyal to the old school guys. And I'm really, really glad Lear was there for that season to kind of capture that, because, those guys, like, they were good Colorado runners, but they were like nobody in high school, besides Goucher. And these guys just trained their butt off, and they really accomplished a ton of stuff. And every cross country season has that kind of story. And it's just really special that ours was captured. I mean, sometimes I'm embarrassed because like people will be like, think of me like 18-year-old from Running with the Buffaloes. Every once in a while I'll get recognized from it, but I think it's just cool to have that like memory and be a part of something special. And it was a really interesting year,
So what was it like? What was the team atmosphere like? And I know if people read Running with the Buffaloes, they'll, talk about Chris Slattery and his, untimely passing. What was that like? And especially with what you guys were trying to accomplish, and you were redshirting, but you were obviously training, and the camaraderie with the team. And at the time he was your number 2 runner. And I think the team definitely had nationals aspirations to go out and win it all. Like, how difficult was it to kind of pick yourselves all back up and continue to try and keep going with that mission?
The biggest thing I'd say about CU cross country is like, it's a brotherhood. Like when, and very soon after you go there, like they're pretty, you're one of the team, like you're brothers with those guys. And like, I'd never experienced anything like that before. Our CU is like the anti-New Jersey kind of college experience. Like, we didn't go out drinking. We like, everybody there was going to be like all American. Like, that's all like we talked about it. After that it was like going pro, but at the Running Buffalo time, like every person on a team expected to be all American in cross.
Wow.
And that's all we talked about. And everybody trained hard. And that's what made you cool, was training hard, that, and we were just so close as a team. And then, being like 18 years old and like having a teammate die, like, I don't really know if I could really wrap my head around it at the time. I was like in shock. I didn't know what to do or say, like I didn't know, I never experienced something like that before, but he was like, we're pretty close for only knowing him for a couple months, me personally. And my teammates like were pretty shattered about it, but that was our whole world. And having a teammate like that, like, I mean, his whole world was us winning NCAA cross too. And so when you have that kind of atmosphere, you can't let it go down. I think it made us want to train harder and push harder and win worse, for him.
It's a pretty incredible story. It really is. We've had an interesting conversation with a lot of, former athletes and stuff like that, talking about coaches, coaches from the past and how it is now. We talk to a lot of coaches at the high school level. Coach Wetmore was there when you were there. He's still there. He's, you could definitely arguably put him there as the greatest American collegiate coach right now. Like he has that. I think he has that distinction currently and is going to finish in that conversation. What was Coach Wetmore like as a coach? Would you compare him as kind of more of an old school style coach? And do you think that he's kind of softened up his approach? Like, how would you talk about him as a coach?
It's funny. I don't know. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Like he really cared about you. He was an old school coach where he didn't yell at you. He never yelled, really. He was like very like soft spoken. He really got to know us. At the time, I thought he was old as hell, but he was probably like late 40s, 50s, when I was on the team. And he's still kicking now. He's probably like 70, but he was a great coach. Like he made you believe. The biggest thing that I learned from Coach Wetmore is you would walk into the office, the week of a race, like you're going to a big race. And like, we had periods of time where you just trained in Colorado and you'd be running at altitude and, you didn't know what your time, would translate to. And Wetmore would put you in the office and you'd be like, you could run this or you could win this race. And he was always pretty spot on. And he just gave you that belief like, hey, if you come in and you put in the work and you do this and this is how fast you'll run. And for me, it was a good system to be in, I think that he is, and I don't know, like I'm not on a team anymore, but I know a lot of the younger guys. I think he's changed his training approach a little better. And I think I would have run faster if I was on the team now, just because I'm more of a shorter distance person. I didn't run well off of 20 miles up in mags. And so maybe he's like not improved, but he's changed his coaching style a little bit. I do think, he's made these kids a little soft compared to the old, like we were just straight up, like some of the stuff we did, like that was Wetmore's whole thing. Like he would take you on your recruiting trip and take you up in the mountains and you'd, do some crazy run or you'd drive just some hilly mountain road and be like, listen, if you come here, he's like, I don't care who you are. I'm going to train you harder than anybody in the country. And you're going to go to the line knowing you're the hardest training dude on the line. And, that's a pretty confident thing when, we look over at other teams and I know they trained hard. I know a lot of those guys, like I know the Stanford guys, and they were training just as hard as we were, but we look over at them and be like, they haven't done anything that we've done. We trained twice as hard as them. We're going to beat them, and I think that's kind of the Wetmore thing. And, now he gives kids water on the runs and lets them take, he was so hardcore at the time. Like some of the stories, like we ran Big 12s and we bussed to Big 12s. And I had NCAAs 2 weeks later and a couple of guys on the team were running the NCs and we're bussing back. And he stops the bus and he's like, get out. And he's like, I'll pick you up in 15 miles. And like drove the bus. And it's like, we ran the night before and like, he just was like hardcore, but we love that about him. That was like, when your coach is hardcore like that, it really like, and you want to be the best. Like you feed off that stuff. And he was just a great coach. He's a great college coach, still is. And he really cares about his athletes. He just really does. Got 2 Foot Locker champions coming in next year. So see who's going to be strong. So
in coach's defense, it might not be him changing. It might be the school forcing him to do certain things now because it is a different environment. They might be like, coach, it's 110 degrees. Give your kids water. I don't want to. Give your kids water. Like,
I think he's just, I mean, it's a different world. You know, that's why people are running so much faster.
It's
sure.
Absolutely different. So I want to go back a little bit because about a month and a half ago, I was on Twitter and I saw a link for this year's Foot Locker meet, which is now called Champ Sports. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to watch that. And I turn it on. I'm like, they were like introducing the Northeast team. They're like, and team captain Steve Slattery. And then there you are. I think it was you, your wife, and both Torres brothers. How did that come about?
We've just tried to support that event as much as we could. They've been a big supporter of me all through my running career and a big supporter of the Torres and my wife and some of the other professional runners of the time. And we like to go to give back and come and support the race. And, you know, it's a cool event. I want it to go strong for a long time, and I want kids to get the same experience that I got. And so whenever they need me to come back and help out with something, I'm more than happy to come back. And I think it's an awesome experience. If you're a high school kid and you want to goal, like try to make Foot Locker, it's probably, you know, like I've run, you know, all the biggest events in the world, and it's like probably one of the coolest events I've ever been to still to this day.
And you were also elected to the Hall of Fame for that too. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I think that there was definitely better high school runners for me. So I don't know if I'm one of the best Foot Locker runners ever, but I appreciate them recognize my dedication to the meet.
I mean, you were good. Were you fourth as a senior?
Yeah, I was fourth.
That's amazing.
Dave, what I noticed with all these uber talented guys that we have on, they're all extremely humble. They're all like, there's always, I'm not that good. You know, I'm not that good. We got it, you know, we got it from, you know, Steve here. We got it from Kadivas. We got, you know, it's like, you're all just kind of like, yeah, you know, there were guys better. And it's like, yeah, but you were like top 1% of the planet. Of course, there's a few people better, but it's like, it's hard. So it's cool to see, you know, how humble you guys all are.
Well, I think a lot of that, what I'll say is like, and I was boys with Kadivas back when we ran. And I think when you run kind of at the highest level, I think no matter who you are, you know, unless you're, you know, the alpha, like you know, like I was not the humblest person when I was in high school and college. Like I knew I was badass, and, you know, like I would be the first to admit that. And I read, you know, some articles like from when I was in high school. I'm like, man, I thought I was fucking badass. But, you know, like I was in a group with like Usain Bolt and Mo Farah. And, you know, when I was my first summer in Europe, I shared a bedroom with Bob Kennedy for 3 months, and Daniel Coleman lived next to us.
One of my favorites, Bob.
And so like I ran every day with some of the best. You know, I raced Bekele multiple times when he was at his best and got spanked. Like I know I was good, and like, you know, at the time probably one of the fastest people on the planet, but like, you know, I have a really strong appreciation for those guys who kind of like went out there and changed the game. So, you know, I think, you know, the Bekeles and the Mo, I was friends with Mo since we were 18. It's like hard to think of him as a complete legend, but like, yeah, like Mo and people like that.
Yeah, I used to love Gabus Lacey was a guy that I used to be in awe of when I was in high school, just watching him run and compete. He was amazing.
I never ran against him before that I can remember, but I've been to some meets with him, and you know, he was a great guy, honestly, like very personable. He was a great, like, you know, person in the sport. But yeah, like I'm like shocked. I ran against Kipchoge. We ran our first Worlds. We went, you know, we're at Worlds at the same time. Like, can't believe that dude's still out there breaking world records.
Yeah,
so.
Or Hisham El Grouge. That guy was so fun to watch run.
Yeah, I've been to some meets with him. I never raced him. He retired like my first year running pro or something like that. But yeah, I went to some meets with him, and I raced Bekele quite a bit. And Kipchoge and Shaheen and, Mo and I used to run a lot together, like in London and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, that was awesome experience. It's I've beat Mo in some workouts before.
That's a feather in the cap right there. You listen, there's very few people that can say they beat Mo in anything. So that's huge. So
he's just a super cool dude. Like we had a lot of fun. Like, he came to Boulder and I was riding him around on my motorcycle and stuff like that. Like he's a good dude. Yeah.
So do you think you would have been the pro that you were if you didn't go to Colorado? You kind of mentioned the system's a little different, but you mentioned the dedication and just how hard you guys all worked. Like, do you think that if you would have went to another school that maybe had a different atmosphere and kind of a different vibe, would you have been the pro? Because you obviously were a driven and competitive dude anyway, but it seems like Colorado maybe stepped that up even more. Like, do you think you would have been the same runner?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest with you. Like, I think that my wife wrote a book kind of about similar topics. Like, you have to make a lot of choices in your career. I think Vin Lanano was a great coach. I think John McDonald was a legend. I've later in my career, I became close to Marcus O'Sullivan in Villanova, and I think he's an amazing coach. I think Vidge is an amazing coach. Like Andy Powell used to run it. Like I think there's so many good coaches out there, but you just don't know. Like there's so many things need to go right in your career. And like, yeah, I probably could have been good a lot of places, but I don't know if that was just like the magic sauce for me. There's something like I felt drawn to Boulder. I thought it was a great place to train, but I went there because, at the time it was the mecca of distance running. And I was always, I won a lot of stuff my freshman year of high school. I never trained with anybody better than me. And I was like, I'm going to go there and they have a really good team. And even if I'm not the best guy on the team, I'm not going to be the best guy in Boulder because like all these foreign athletes train there. And I was like, if I could go there, I think it'll give me my best shot. And it was the right place for me.
So last thing before we jump off, we ask a lot of our guests, we're asking you, how do we make this sport attractive? What do we do? Because us three here, we love track and field. And all three of us also were athletes outside of this and like other sports as well. How do we make track and field attractive to the casual fan? What, in your ideas, can we do in order to make someone sit there and go, oh man, this Saturday, this meet's on, Slattery's running the steeple. I can't wait to see what he does. Like, what do you think we could do to kind of get those names out there that people are looking forward to this type of stuff?
Yeah, I think, track's a cool sport. And I think a lot of people would be more inclined. It's just so hard to follow. I think that's the main problem. I think, there's a lot of like bad politics, especially on the US level right now, that's holding the sport back. I know a lot of distance runners that were college runners and stuff, and that are like CEOs of huge companies and just business geniuses. Like we need one of those guys to take over USA Track and Field. And like right now, like track and field is like a little piece of cheese and a bunch of rats on a little piece of cheese. And it's like, CU athletic budget, like big, Texas is like $100 million a year. That's like the whole Diamond League. Like one college, sport, athletic department budget's bigger than our whole sport. I think we're doing something wrong. And I don't know what all the answers are, but I think, the media, we got to make the media more interested, but, runners need to be more visible. I think like we talked about Emma, like, really sorry to hear about her mom. Like she's an amazing person, but like Emma does a great job of like breaking out. I think, we need more athletes doing stuff like that. Like if you want to make money in sports, you got to market yourself, and you got to do that in social media. You got to go out of your way and do that. And I think we need some more guidance for the leaders in the sport of pushing athletes in the right direction. I think you go through levels as an athlete. When you're running, you're like first come out and you're super stoked. And then a lot of people end up kind of bitter at the end of their time. Cause like, very few people leave like on a high note, right? You're good and you leave as your way down. And I think, now I've been out of the sport long enough to be pretty grateful for the experience I had. And I think we need more people like to go in and like really teach people how to market themselves and, some stuff like that to really promote the sport. Cause nobody has any idea who any of these people are, like, outside of the running world. And we just do a horrible job with that. And I don't know. I think people would be interested. Like some of the meets in Europe are really, really awesome. And like, a lot of them are dying off. My first year running world champs in Paris, there was like 100,000 people, or I think the stadium holds like 80 something, and it was full every day. And like those meets have moved into smaller stadiums and they're not sold out and they don't have the sponsorship. And I just think before it's too late, we just need to overhaul the sport,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a topic that we talk about often on here, because like I feel like if you're not like a sprinter here in the United States, it's definitely harder. Like people now know who Sydney is or Noah Lyles, but you don't see as much of that self-promoting from the longer distance runners. And it's kind of a shame because that was the events that I always wanted to watch. So
yeah, I don't think try to work on that. See it anywhere in the world, like, I mean, Centrowitz is a guy with like an amazing personality. He was Olympic gold medalist. Yeah. Like he, we needed to promote him more. We needed to promote like, and I don't know what the answer is. Maybe people just aren't interested, but, I'd love to, have some of these, like, there's a lot of track geeks out there that are super good at business and super successful. I'd love for one of those guys to kind of get more involved in the sport and, use some of that just skill to make it better.
Because people should know who Grant Fisher is. I mean, he just broke the American record 5K. People should know who he is. But most people, I mentioned, like, I have no idea who that is. I'm like, how do you not know? But then again, I remember, like, I love this sport and I watch it all the time. So, like, it's just weird talking to people who just don't have interest, but they'll know who the backup quarterback is on some football team.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Grant is just running. Like, I mean, that season he put together last season, just incredible. Amazing. Yeah, he should. I mean, that guy is. But it's like we have 100,000 people running a marathon every weekend throughout the country, and like, it sucks when you're training, but maybe the answer is like parading them around to some of those things and making them go to, some expos or something. I don't know what the answer is, but I think like we need to introduce some of these stars. Like Grant Fisher and people like that to the everyday person, like when I ran, like Ryan Hall did a really good job of it. Alan Webb, like kind of branching out. Meb Keflezighi did a good job with that. Like just hard, man. You gotta, when you're, I'm sure Grant Fisher trains really freaking hard. So I'm sure, like he doesn't want to do anything more than the 120 miles a week or whatever he's running. But, we need people like that have the personality to grow the sport,
Definitely. Yeah. So that's our call. Nerdy, unathletic distance runners that are now CEOs. Come on, put it to work. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, we do need something like that. I really think that would be great. I'm hoping that what we're doing here might help reach some of the casuals and they can kind of hear different stories, because it's been great. We've had a different story from every single athlete, coach that was an athlete, from the elite runners and things like that we've had on to the just pretty good runners that are now coaches. And like, I think that we're unique in that sense where we can have people that have gotten to similar spots. Like, you and Kadivas have like a little bit of a similar thing. You're both national champions, elite runners, tops of your sport, in the United States at one point, but yet you have completely different tracks on how you got there. So it's cool. I hope that what we're doing here can kind of help that out. But you mentioned, I want to give it a shout out. You mentioned your wife's book, How She Did It. Go pick it up. We want to promote that. Can you give a little more, talk a little more about the book, give a little promotion there?
Yeah, it's something like, I know you mentioned like, how to make it work. Going to college in Colorado, like my wife wrote a book recently with Molly Huddle, who's American record holder in multiple events and just complete awesome. Legend. They were on a run one day, like 2019, 2020, and just talked about like so many, runners go to Foot Locker and they don't make it to the pros. And you see these kids in high school you think are going to just, be Olympic medalists, and everybody has their story of why they made it and they didn't make it. They focused on girls that made it, like who were, national champions and Olympic medalists. And they talk, they go from like people in the 70s all the way up to some of the biggest stars in the sport right now, and talk about, their story. Like, how did they get started? Like, was there a time, like, if they chose this path, they would either make it or not, and what they did and challenges they overcame. And, I think it's, it's really important, especially for women runners. Like, I did it the cookie cutter way. Like, I went to CU, we had Adam Goucher and Alan Culpepper. They were two of the best guys in America. I did what they did. And then when I went pro, like, I signed with the same agent as Bob Kennedy because he was like my hero. Yeah, and like I shared a bedroom with him for 3 months and asked him like 1,000 questions a day until I thought I had it figured out. And
did you bring his poster that all of us had? Did you bring it with you and put it up in that same room? Because I think everybody had a Bob Kennedy poster at some point if you were a runner.
I did in high school.
It was pretty funny because I was like that age, like 1996 Olympics. Like, I was like, a sophomore in high school, maybe. Like, Bob was a complete legend. And then I remember I fly to Europe. I'm staying in London. I didn't really understand the system. We're roommates for like sharing a tiny bedroom in London for a summer. Like, I'm running with Bob every day. Like, Daniel Coleman lives next door to us, and like all these crazy runners. And like, I was in shock. And like, I was like asking Bob, like, how do you run sub 13? And I remember our first workout, he wasn't doing the workout. We go to the track and our agent like brings one of the Kenyans, and it's like loaded. Like, there's probably like 7 or 8 sub 13-minute guys in our group. Wow. And he's like, yeah, this dude's going to take you through in 4:04 for the mile. And you're going to run a 2K, last laps, every man for themselves. And then we're going to run 8x400. And I was like, Bob, like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Like, and
going through in 4:04, right?
Yeah, he's just like, dude, just tuck in and like hang on for as far as you could. And I'm like, well, if I run 4:04, that's decent for a rep, like to get the day started. So I ran 4:04 and stopped. I think the best guy ran like 2:58 or 4:58 for a 2K. And then we ran like 8 quarters and they were running like 55. I got dropped after like 3 or 4. And I was just like, wow, maybe I'm not as good as I thought. Like, I need to get fit.
That answered your question to Bob. How do you run sub 13?
And he was just like, yeah, he was just like, go out to the track and just run fast. And so, it's different world.
I remember when Bob first broke 13, I was like, I didn't know if an American could actually do it at the time because it was all
ridiculous.
Kenyans. And then he did it, and I was like, man, he just ran 12:58. I remember him and Todd Williams. I used to love watching them. Bob in the 5, Todd in the 10. Growing up, like that's just what I grew up watching.
Those guys,
as a distance runner.
I think that I'm glad like they were amazing, and I'm glad we have a lot of great distance runners right now. So if you're a high school kid, like there's so many from Grant Fisher on, my boy Joe Klecker. From CU, there's just so many guys out there that, and a lot of them are posting what they're doing all the time. Like, it's not like back in the day, it was hard to know what those guys did.
That's a big difference now. Yeah.
Yeah. You could, a lot of these guys are sharing what they're doing and training and stuff like that. And, the best advice I could give you is it's not easy to run fast. Like you have to be super talented, to run sub 13 or whatever. But I think, if you want to run fast, like you can't be afraid to run a lot of miles, and you can't be afraid to run hard. Yeah. You got to run hard every day to run fast. I mean, so
just now the times that these kids are running in high school, last year we had 3 kids break 4 minutes. It's crazy that these kids are doing this now in high school. You just hope that it translates into future success.
Well, I think that now that we have multiple kids doing it, there's going to be Grant Fisher ran sub 4 in high school, and like he's a 10K runner now, 5K, 10K. And it's like, there was Alan Webb kind of like in my generation. And like, if we have 4 or 5 guys breaking, 4 every year, my 2 or 3 of them, maybe they don't run great in college or pro, but I think we're going to start getting more Grant Fishers because these guys are just running so fast at such a young age, and they're training hard, and, the super shoes. That's like what all us old guys say. It's all the shoes.
Of course. Listen, That's how I feel now when I see kids running fast at a Homedale Park. I'm like, yeah, but there's no more routes. It's all groomed down.
Yeah, the groove down pisses me off.
It never rains anymore. No one because like now these kids. I'm like, you break 16 out at a Homedale. It's like, okay.
I think
good.
too, like, my thing on that is nobody like we didn't always try to run fast.
Right.
Like I think that my plan in high school was I thought I could run close to the record my senior year at the Meet of Champs. And I think it actually like set me on a weird course. So I didn't run very hard in the group meet. I think I ran like 16 minutes and I was like, I'm going to come back at the Meet of Champs to make a run for the record. And then the Meet of Champs just rained like crazy. It was ridiculous. And I ended up winning like against good guys by quite a bit, like over 16 minutes. And it was just so muddy and so wet. And like, I kind of missed my shot. And then I ran Foot Locker regionals the next week and just went out like way too hard. Like, I think we were like at Van Cortlandt, I think we're
Vanny
somewhere between 9:20 and 9:30 at 2 miles. And I just died a horrible death. And I dove for the line to get 7th and barely make it. Han beat me at regionals. Like, I barely made regionals. Like, I just went out way too hard. And then I questioned my fitness. And this is like a testament, like one of the best things my high school coach ever did is it was right. There was like 2 weeks maybe between Foot Locker regionals and nationals. And he took me out to my track and, our track was always windy and kind of cold that time of year. And he's like, listen, no racing shoes, like no spikes, like you're going to just run a mile in training shoes. I want you to run hard and see what you run. And my little brother, who was a freshman, rabbited me for a lap. And I think I ran like 4:14. And he's like, you're fit. You could go for the win, like go to Foot Locker and try to win, dude. It was a fluke. And so, yeah, man, I wanted that shot at Homedale. I always debated as a pro going back there and just trying to light it up, but I never did.
Oh, man. So we have to wrap it up here. Awesome show. I feel like we could have continued to talk for another few hours. Steve, I really just want to thank you for coming on. Dave, do you have anything else you want to add before we jump off here?
No, just thank you very much. It's always great to see someone from our state who has the chance to fulfill their own dreams. In whatever it is that they do, and it's been an absolute pleasure watching you compete all these years, and you've definitely made this state extremely proud. So thank you.
I'm extremely proud to be from New Jersey, and I'm always happy when I go back and represent, man. We got a lot of great athletes out there. So thank you for having me on, and good luck with the podcast.
Appreciate that. And again, he's Steve Slattery, an absolute legend from New Jersey track and field, where, we mentioned we have a lot of great runners from there. Steve certainly stands out. And also United States champion in the steeplechase in 2003. Once again, everyone keep sending us your PRs. Steve, that goes for you too. If you get any old man PRs, send it to us. We love to hear about them because we know it resets after a little while, right? All of our PRs start to reset. So again, everybody, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week with another great show. So long, everyone.